Hey, everybody. You're listening to Crystal here with the Plant Pusher podcast. And what's really, really exciting is that we're here with you to always talk about all things plants, colors, textures, shapes, their impacts on your life. I love working with plants. I love introducing you to new plants. And here at Plant Pusher, that's what I do. I push you straight to the plants. Hey, everybody. This is Crystal. I am your plant pusher, and welcome to Plant Pusher. I'm excited today because you guys know I love growing. You know I love gardening. You know I love all things that have to do with you putting your extremities and your heart, soul, and passion into the earth. So a lot of you have asked about gardening and growing. How do you get started? What do you do? And we've always discussed how there's so many aspects to growing. But I'm excited because soil is my jam. If you've ever had a stressful day and you go out and grow anything and put your fingers or your hands into the soil with your tools or just your hands, there's a very unique connection that you get to the earth. So today I have a special guest. That's my special guest noise, just in case y'all didn't know. And so today I have a special guest, and I'm very honored to have Mr. Renaldo Lemons with me from Black Soil Urban Farm. And I am a huge supporter of his work, and I'm excited to bring him to you because this is what we do. Hi, Renaldo. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. And let me say the honor is all mine. And I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to just sit with you in your presence and your beauty. And I love what you do. And I love your energy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. From one plant friend to another.
Yes.
That's really sweet. I appreciate it. So tell us a little bit about you. How'd you get started? And tell us about your passion.
Okay, definitely. Well, you know, I've always just look at myself as a regular guy. Mm-hmm. You know, nothing extremely special in that I've done anything, got degrees or I've studied across the country or nothing like that. You know, I think for me, my passion and learning this thing, it kind of happened by osmosis, you know, kind of like more of a destiny, you know, all things kind of revolving and turning back to guiding you to where you should be. You know, my great-grandfather was a farmer. You know, a lot of Black farmers, that's what they did to survive.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so it's kind of just something that's innate in me, but the universe came together and led me to a teacher. You know, how they say that when the student is ready, the teacher will arrive. And so that was kind of my circumstance. I've only been really into gardening and soil for about 3 years. But it was such an intense effect on me that I just dove head first. And my apprenticeship with a gentleman named Kwame Mboya here in Oklahoma City, he's one of the, great farmers around here in the city, very well known. And after being able to tutelage under him, apprentice under him, I began to want to look out on my own and spread my wings, as they say. Yeah. And but didn't have a lot of capital. Sure. Didn't have land, and so I had to think outside of the box and did some research. And at that time, microgreens were kind of just emerging, So I got into microgreens, and at the same time, I got into vermicomposting, and both of those things immediately, I felt something deep inside, a deep connection to it. And like you said, dealing with the soil, dealing with the earth, period. And it's just become a passion.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. So what makes your method unique? What makes your audience different? Tell us about how you work with soil and compost, and what makes what you do so unique for your environment and for your community.
Okay, great question. I think for me, because I come from a varied background, the different experiences, I bring those experiences with me. And like I said, we have lost a lot of African American farmers. And so that in itself is unique. An African American growing microgreens. This is not, I don't know too many. It's not very much heard of. My environment is, it's urban. It's the definition of urban. It's in my garage. It's in the backyard. It's taking the things that people may look at and throw away and using those things to get the things done that I want to get done. And so it encompasses, more of a lifestyle than just dealing with soil and gardening. It had became a lifestyle to where I began to change my diet and try to, eat less meat or, understand. Let me kind of segue a bit, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So eating is, it's a thing to where it can control you. An appetite is a strong chemical, thing that's going on in your head. So your head is connected to your gut. And so when your mentality changes, and then you couple that with your diet changing, it does something to you. It gives you clarity, and it helps you to overcome addictions, because we can be addicted.
Oh, absolutely, we can.
We can be addicted to sugars and salts, and those things are great, wonderful. But to overdo anything can cause you health issues.
Absolutely.
And so I don't promote, all the way left or all the way right, all the way vegan, all the way meat. I promote balance, and balance is the key element in all things soil as well.
So tell me, why is soil so important? I really want our audience to know more about why soil is important. We know that there's a lot of different farming techniques. There's hydroponics, there's aquaponics, it's similar. Tell us why soil is so important. Why is it important to food to you?
Okay, let me address the last thing you said first, and then I'll go into that. So hydroponics is great. I think hydroponics is innovation. When you start talking about different ways of growing food, then you're just talking about innovation, which is great, technology and innovation. But the root of growing plants and vegetables is in the soil. My tagline that I like to use is life begins and life ends in the soil. And so that one tagline can give you a sense of how important soil is. I also liken soil and the earth unto the womb. The importance of a womb. Mankind's existence is predicated on the womb of a woman. So it's no consequence that we call it Mother Earth. And so the earth does the same thing as the womb does. It incubates, it nourishes, and it allows things to be birthed, right, and into this world. And it maintains and continues the cycle of life. And so that is how important soil is.
I love that. You're right. I think that oftentimes people forget that a lot of the flavor and nutrients they get and the things that are grown from the soil come directly from how it's nourished and nurtured in the earth.
Yes.
And so I think it makes a huge difference. And I love that. And I love that you shared that. So let's see. So tell us about your farm and what are some of the things that people really enjoy the most from your farm directly?
Okay. Now I just got through talking about soil. And so, but my farm I grow indoors.
Okay.
Urban farming. vertical farming.
Mm-hmm.
I do still use, we'll call it a soil amendment.
What's that?
I use cocoa core.
Nice.
So it's, it's a sustainable byproduct of coconut processing. Mm-hmm. And I use cocoa core, and I use vertical farming. I grow microgreens. So my farm is basically just that. It's a lot of attention to the environment, because I'm creating the environment. I'm not outdoors.
I like that.
I'm actually having to create an environment. I have to be very aware of temperature, of humidity, lighting, airflow. And so that's what I like, a challenge. And that's what drew me to continue in microgreens, because a lot of people get started in microgreens, and it can be intense. But if you got a system down right, it can be very rewarding on the business side. If you're just growing them at your house, put them on your windowsill, it's something that anybody and everybody can do.
So explain to us what microgreens are, and let's talk a little bit about that. What are microgreens?
Okay. Well, microgreens are, let's say, they are in between the stages of a sprout and a baby green. So everybody knows what a sprout and a baby green is. Well, in between that, it's a term called the cotyledon. So the cotyledon is basically when you see a sprout go into those first two called true leaves. That's a microgreen, and the importance of microgreen, or what makes microgreens so great, is their nutritional value. They are small and cute. Don't get me wrong.
And they taste great. I love them.
They have an intense flavor. So I always call it a cheat code. The cheat code with microgreens is that you can eat less of them and still get the same amount of nutritional value from them. And they're so versatile. Put them in your soup, your smoothie, your sandwiches. And it's something that I believe needs to be promoted a lot more because of their versatility, easy to digest for the elderly, and yeah, I mean, microgreens are great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, why do you think soil is so important and composting is so important?
Again, I believe soil is the mother of earth. It's the mother of life. It's the beginning and the end of life.
Do you have variations of soil or compost?
Absolutely. That's what makes soil so great.
Okay.
Is its diversity. Okay. And what makes a great soil is the fact that soil is basically composed from its environment, right? The things in that environment. So you may go from a desert to a tropical forest, but it's still soil. You may have real clay type soil, which we're very familiar with.
Which is common here, yeah.
With Oklahoma, that we call it red dirt, but it's a red clay. And a lot of people kind of, when it comes to growing, nobody wants clay, but clay is actually the element of the soil that holds the nutrients, right? So you have different parts of the soil. You have kind of the sand. You have the silt, silt is composed mainly of organic matter. So when you have the leaves falling, the wood chips, the animals, the little organisms dying and sticking together, that's where you get your silt from. And then you have clay. And so the silt and the sand, silt holds a little bit more nutrients than the sand. Sand doesn't hold much at all. But the clay actually holds a lot more of the nutrients. And so the perfect soil would be a balance and a combination of the two. And let me say this, because I just remembered, a good soil, a great soil will be catered to what you're trying to grow. And that's the diversity of soil, what makes it so great. And we can actually create our own soil, with those particular elements.
So, okay, let's see. So a lot of people in my audience love plants. They love growing. They love gardening. Whether they're beginning or intermediate, what are some great things they can do? What are some items they can gather if they want to create their own soil or compost at home?
Okay, great question. So again, using sustainable methods, finding products that, like I said, are that you can are more. It's not hurting the earth. It's not hurting the environment. The first thing you want to do when thinking about doing anything in planting or gardening, what effect am I going to have on the planet? What effect is this going to have on the earth? And when you keep that in mind, that'll help you to look for different elements just that's around you. So some of the elements that are around you, sand is easy to find, rocks, minerals. There are great products out now today that have great minerals. And you also want to look at something that can aerate your soil. I'm not a fan of, it slips my mind. What are those little white bees that's in the soil all the time?
Yeah, I know you're talking about, like little styrofoam balls.
Yes.
Almost.
I'm not a fan of those, but it's nothing wrong with them. They're prevalent everywhere in every package. But I would say if you're making your own, you can substitute that with vermiculite. You can substitute that also or add to that with rice hull seeds. You can also supplement with cotton seed hulls. So those are some of the things that you can add to your soil. So you want to have a base of cocoa coir or peat moss. And there's an argument about the sustainability of peat moss, but it's still a good medium to use. I'm not a fan of peat moss because I think it's a little bit drier than I like to deal with. But you just got to remember, you have to keep that in mind and make sure that you water maybe a little bit more than you have to water with cocoa coir. So if you haven't noticed, I love cocoa coir. It's neutral, and I also like to promote vermicompost. Add you some vermicompost, which is going to add you organic matter to whatever plants that you're trying to do. I love the plant people out there because they really love their plants. They really take care of their plants and their environment. They have a great understanding of how to nurture, and people, get emotionally, involved and attached as to their plants, and I think that's so great because it gives you a personal dimension, that you can explore in your everyday life. And so I appreciate your audience, those who are listening right now and those who will be listening later.
That's all you plant mamas and plant daddies out there. We're talking to y'all.
Yes. So you are appreciated. And if you can't do gardening and you can just have a plant or two at your home, rewind this and also listen to the past episodes and just go for it. It starts with one step.
Are there any scraps we can use for my audience? Because this might be new for some. You and I partake in it. We believe in the value of soil and composting. But what are some items they can take out of their kitchen? Some scraps they may have that they can, when they're working with their own soil.
Okay. Again, food scraps. Food scraps is something that you can use to vermicompost.
Okay.
Right. You can do big composting as well, but most regular households don't have enough food waste to actually do a big pile of compost. One of the great things is coffee grounds. Adding coffee grounds to your soil, adding crushed and crushed egg shells. They're good for a lot of different things, along with minerals. They do crushed egg shells also for the little insects and stuff that may be around, that it deters them as well. I love to use banana peels in my vermicompost. And so I say try it out.
Okay, because I've done it before. That's how I started. So definitely coffee grinds, banana peels. What else do I use? Oh gosh, so mulberries, because I have tons of mulberry trees. Any leftover fruit from any of my other fruit trees, like peaches and things like that. And then I have a bunch of continuous pecan trees. And so I get all those scraps, dump them all in. I get the richest soil. Me and the earthworms and I, we fight. They live in my soil. When I'm creating my pile, it never forgets. I mean, and I get some earthworms big. I mean, they're as large as snakes almost. They're huge. I didn't know that could happen when I first started years ago, but now they're just a part of the situation. I just throw them back in there. Let them do their job.
You're talking about in your garden, in the back? Okay. Now, let me give a warning.
Okay, please do.
Let me give a warning, because if you're saying you have a worm that's kind of like big as a snake, it's really aggressive.
No, he's kind of, he's skinny. He's thick, but he's skinny, but he's long.
Yeah.
And clearly he's growing.
Yeah. I know ladies can see
he's a worm.
A little 3-inch spider, and it's a tarantula.
No. He's every bit of 8 to 12 inches.
Okay.
He's kind of big, but he's just a worm.
Now, the warning of those type of worms is that there is a pest worm. I forgot what the term was. It's called the Asian jumper, Asian jumping worm, and they damage soil a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And I know this because I have them prevalent in my backyard. And I tried to do an outside vermicomposting thing. And when I noticed them showing up, I noticed that the quality of my soil was pretty bad. And it's an infestation over where I'm at. So just a warning, not to scare you, but just
okay.
There's no.
I see him now. I see what they look like. This is good to know.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! How do we get rid of one of these?
Those one of those things to where you can't beat nature.
Shut up.
Nature is undefeated. Nature is undefeated.
Well,
and so if there's an infestation, it'll be hard to get rid of them. But
I don't have them in my raised beds, but I do have them over. No, they're not my raised beds, but I do have a pile where I'm constantly adding scraps and things to. Where fall is about to kick in, you got leaves dropping. I like to drop my leaves in one area and work it till nature breaks it down.
Now, I will say this: the worms you're talking about then may just be earthworms. Then, if it's actually in your pile, because these worms are burrowers. You have 3 levels pretty much of worms. You have your type of worms, composting worms. They usually stay on top, the first 3 to 6 inches of the soil. And then you have the ones that's kind of in the middle, your night crawlers. And then you have those big, strong ones that dig deep down and kind of aerate and get your soil with the holes and stuff in it. So a lot of people have a misconception sometimes. They'll get the, I don't remember, I can't pronounce the scientific name, but they call red wigglers. They'll get red wigglers, put them in their garden and think they're going to aerate their garden or aerate their soil. But in actuality, those worms are not big and strong enough to create holes that much to do aeration. But they're great to have as composters.
Okay, so I don't have to run away from the worm I have, but I've definitely got two different piles, thank goodness. So I'm glad you taught me something there. That's important to know. So can anybody start creating their own soil or what are some things that they can do to take care of their own small indoor gardening area or their own growing? What can they do? How can they create their own soil or nurture the soil they have? What would you suggest?
I would suggest a couple of things. Invest in a good compost.
Mm-hmm.
That is key. I also say, even before that, you need to plan. Before you go into this endeavor, a lot of times you run into things that you didn't expect.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a plan, even though you may get some detours in what you're trying to do, you can always kind of refer back to your plan and go from there and continue to progress. And you want to do your plan because you want to look at the financial aspect of it as well, and make sure that you are saving up if you need to save up for your garden the next season.
What are some things we need to save up for? Like what will we save up for? What's some things we have to pay for?
Mm-hmm. Again, compost. Uh-huh. Compost, it can be expensive. You need to do some research and find it. Well, it's about, we'll say on the low end, $40 a yard. And on the high end, it can go up to about $80 to $100 a yard.
That can be
depending
expensive,
where you're going from.
That makes sense.
And, but if you got a small area, it's not going to be that much. But so invest in your compost. I would promote creating your own soil by using food scraps in your vermicompost bin. If you can do a vermicompost bin, and if you don't know how to do a vermicompost bin, you can get a bit of an idea from online. I also have a class coming up, a vermicomposting class. Ooh. That we'll be actually doing worm bins in that class with
What are worm bins? Tell us what worm bins are. What are those?
A worm bin is basically bedding, a little bit of cocoa coir, and you have your red wigglers, and you put them in a plastic bin. This is very low cost plastic bin, very low maintenance, and depending on how many worms that you put in your bin will determine how much you feed them the food scraps. Vermicomposting, I'll put it like this: to the statistics. If you go back to during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And what happened during the pandemic was we weren't outside. We weren't in the environment. And the earth actually kind of healed itself, if you guys can remember that. And so the vermicomposting, it kept, that in itself kept the landfills having less material. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so if you can do your part and deter some of your food waste into your vermicompost bin, which gives you great soil and great organic fertilizer, statistically, we could take out a great percentage of and deter a great percentage of the food waste in these landfills. And just help the environment. So to get back to the point, what can you do, right?
Yeah.
What can you do? You can do the compost. You can do the vermicompost. Again, you would have to buy vermiculite if you want to aerate your soil.
Where can they buy that at? Vermiculite?
Amazon.
Okay. Okay, one click and go. I like that.
Yeah,
okay.
You can get it. Or some places, I haven't looked around a lot, but some places in Oklahoma do carry it. Okay. Not very many, but some do. But I'm sure if you go to your local or organic shop, your local grow shop, since we have a few of those
Yeah,
now,
grow supplies.
a grow supply place, and ask for it. I'm sure they could even order through them as well if they don't have it. Building soil is not, like I said, it's not rocket science. You need 3 elements.
What are the 3?
You need the base, like I said, a compost. You need minerals, which could be some type of rock element. You need aeration. Again, would it come from some rocks or pebbles? And when I say rocks, I'm talking little small elements. It could come from the sticks and stems of your I forgot to mention this, one of the favorite foods of the worms, as you know, is the leaves that fall. So that's another thing you can use to create soil, is those that leaf litter is what we call it. Also, make sure you put a little moisture in there, because of course, water helps those organisms to kind of move around and get busy and do their thing, and even with your worms, your compost worms, you got to keep your compost a little moist. And you would having a compost, you have to water and turn your compost.
You have to turn it.
So the air and the water are the catalysts that get the organisms moving, that breaks down your food waste and breaks down the leaves and everything in order to create an organic fertilizer, a soil amendment, or something that you can even use on your plants. I use my vermicompost in my plants.
Nice.
And it's called like side dressing.
Because in different areas, for example, pink pineapple, which I love, only grows in areas that have rich volcanic soil. It's the volcanic ash that allows the pineapple to turn pink when growing. So they can't grow everywhere. So I think soil is so important because it changes the flavor profile of food. It can change the texture and the color of food in the most beautiful way. And so that's why I was asking you, your microgreens. First of all, they're phenomenal. I've had them before, and I'm very proud of you for those. And tell us how you guys started with vertical growing. That's not a traditional way to grow. Traditional is in the ground or raised beds. Or in pots, thirdly. But vertical growing has become very popular over the last several years. How did you get started? And was it expensive to start? Did you buy one of those tower garden things? How did you start? What do you do?
Okay, great question. And so, again, it came out of the need to find a way to grow without a lot of money. And so, to answer that question, no, it didn't take a lot of money. And we were doing it as a business, so we may have invested a little bit more than the average everyday person.
Under 1,000 or over 1,000?
Right at between 1,000 and 2,000.
Not bad. Okay. Even for you home growers, that is doable.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what I did was, a few important elements. Of course, racks. You can get racks from any not supply, but Home Depot, Lowe's, or somewhere on Amazon. Those stainless steel racks, but you don't have to have stainless steel. Just get you some racks that can hold, and then you need trays. The most common is a 10 by 20 tray. Get you some trays. Those are pretty cheap. They do have more sturdy, more expensive ones, but the cheaper ones are good to go. They'll last you for a while. Your cocoa core, and the bulk of the cost would probably be your seeds. And like I said, trying to buy as a business, I wanted to buy in bulk, so I may have spent a lot more on seeds than your average listener would have to. And another key element would be lighting. All right. Since we are indoors, then we have to control the lighting. You need those LED lights. You can use LED lights. You can use fluorescent lights. You can use what you have, but you need lighting. Now, again, you can also put it on your windowsill. If you have a greenhouse, plants need light. Sure. We know that, to grow. And depending on the type of light, will determine the specifics of it growing. Another key element is wherever you're doing it at, you need to have good airflow. Now in my case, I built a room inside of a garage.
That was smart.
Yeah, I built a room. I used a Panda film as my sidings and my roof, small wood structure around it. I had my lights, my trays, my racks, and from there, my fan to keep the airflow, my AC to keep it cool. Mm-hmm. I did run into a problem when it got cold because I didn't have
those heaters.
I didn't have a good enough heat source.
Yeah.
So those are all the things you have to think about. But it was.
How'd you combat that? That's a good one, because a lot of us don't think about that. You know how people, even in our homes, we have one room that might be cooler, one room that's warmer. How did you combat that in your garage, even after you created a specific room? Because that was really, really, that makes a lot of sense. What'd you do?
Honestly, it's still a challenge.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a heat source in there now?
Let me put it like this. I did have a heat source. Not a bad thing, though.
Okay.
Because just this year, we expanded. So in the smaller space, I had a heater and had my AC. And, but once we expanded, now the challenge with the heating in the air, I have accomplished that. It just took raising some capital, you know what I'm saying, to get that done. So that's kind of where we are as a business right now. We're kind of in the looking to raise a couple of more $100 to get the unit, but now I need to get it installed.
Yep.
Because the installation costs just as much
as the actual unit. That's true, because even like in big commercial farms, you see where they always have their blowers going for air, whether it's for livestock or for plants. And they also have their heaters and elements to cool. So you're absolutely right. And getting it installed, it makes sense on a small level. You could kind of pull through if it was in a room in your house, for example, because it's insulated. Yes. And people might use things like space heaters and so forth and fans. Yes. But as you expand, that's true. But that's good, though, because you still gave us like a good mental picture, where even the listeners could try to learn themselves and teach themselves a little bit before they take your class, so they can be knowledgeable. So I really like that. And I love how beautiful and how humble the beginnings are, and how you've still made it something that's obtainable and sustainable while still while it grows to be an even larger operation. Because I think sometimes people get very overwhelmed by the idea of growing anything. They think they need 25,000 tools, and you don't. Yeah. So, gosh, I really love that. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, and I hope to be an example, that if you just, like I said, take that first step, and if you plan. We did a lot of research the first year or so. We did probably the first 2 years, a year and a half, we did a lot of research of finding the right equipment and the right products, and sourcing out where we're going to get our seeds from. And so just like you take care of your plant, that same energy and that same self-education is key. We really have to be more self-educating. And you have to, I'm astonished. Let me just say this. I'm astonished with how much you grow. I'm really trying to sneak in here and get next to you and get invited to see what you got going on and how you do what you do.
Oh,
that's the real secret.
You know what? We start very similar. When I first started, I started a lot like what you're talking about. Literally, like I started in my home, started in my garage. Every piece of area I thought I could suck up at my house, I did. To be truthful, oh gosh, it's been a long time ago. It's probably at least 10 years ago. I started growing bell peppers and hot peppers I had a washroom on the back of a house I had. And it was like an old school sunroom, but it had like wash and dryer in it. And I went to a garage sale because I'm addicted and found an old school roaster, but it's set up like almost like a radio, like old school wooden radios. It was made of steel, but in the top it had a roaster. And I was like, I can put soil in that. And I planted all these pepper plants and left them in my washroom and worked on my own soil. And that's really when I started. And that's been well over 10 years ago. And I was just practicing and playing around. First of all, the peppers and bell peppers took off like you wouldn't believe because the conditions in there were perfect. It was warm. It was humid. It was perfect. And so for me, I love growing. And now I have farmland, which I'm really excited about. So I've got some new additions I'm adding on to it. I'm so excited. I'll tell you though, the beast of thing that's going to like almost take me out this year is fencing. Because people forget that with land, especially open land, you need fencing over time as you add. So I've got goals. I want to add some beekeeping, and I want to add have times where people can bring their livestock over to graze to keep my grass down and raise beds. So I love growing things. I will try to grow anything, and it's so much fun. It's so exciting because my peaches were superb this year. Mulberries were great this year. Pecans were good this year. My apples misbehaved a little bit, but that was okay. Melons did good until the raccoons and the possums got me. They started eating them from the bottom up and ate everything out of them. So I thought I had a beautiful watermelon sitting there, and then I went to go pick it up. It was like light as a feather, and I'm like, where did? And the livestock got me, but it's fun. So yes, you definitely have to come out to the farm and hang out. Mm-hmm.
You have a wide diversity though. Mm-hmm. Of herbs.
I just go for it. Whether it's sage, pau d'arco bark, marshmallow flowers, you name it. Like I really love going for it. Lavender. And if I have outgrown myself, which is what's happened to me over the years, to be truthful, I've outgrown my production, literally. And so over the years, I've had to reach out to other growers and farmers who grow things and say, hey, can I grow this with you? Because I'm already growing at max capacity of my successions until I get my soil and everything ready. So I've had some other growers that help pick me up a little bit, and they'll carry my next round if I can't flip it enough time, especially when it gets cold, because I grow outdoors and indoors. And I do my best to grow outdoors at least 50-50 because I love people being able to see what's growing and for them to be able to enjoy it. And if they want some, come get some. I'm all about sharing because when people taste the difference in their food, I think it brings a community together. So it makes me really proud. But I love what you're doing. I really, really do. And I love growing. I'm glad you guys love growing too. It's so important.
Yes.
So it's awesome. Oh, okay. So microgreens. Tell me things that you love your microgreens to go on. Because I might have people in my audience who don't eat microgreens or who don't know how to eat them.
Absolutely.
Tell us.
Okay. Again, microgreens are very versatile. I mean, anything that you put a lettuce on, you can put your microgreens on. The good thing about microgreens is that because you have a different flavor profiles with them, you can grow different ones for specific things. One in particular that I'm thinking about is radish. Mm-hmm. Now radish is something that, you may not, well, you can. Radish is, if you like spicy stuff, not hot sauce spicy, right. But radish, everybody is used to a radish. And so you have to be careful with them because you can't overdo it, because they are so potent. Then you have one of my favorite is peas. So pea microgreens is something I use a lot in like stir fry. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so it goes right along with that Asian flavors, another good one, broccoli is a mainstay, and sunflower, right? Mm-hmm. So the great thing about sunflowers is they taste just like sunflowers. Sunflower seeds. Those people who out there who eat sunflower seeds, you can literally harvest your sunflowers and put them in a bag, a cup, or whatever. Take it with you. You can eat them, just hand to mouth.
Yeah.
They taste that good. There's a nuttiness to them. I played around a little bit with cantaloupe microgreens, and they were a little finicky, but for the most part, if you got good seed, only thing about cantaloupe seeds and doing microgreens is they're a little expensive. So it's something that, it just had to be kind of a venture for you. And so it was an adventure, but it was well worth it. Corn. They have corn microgreens. You have beet microgreens. There's a lot of diversity that you can delve into. Again, once you start getting, I call them the main five. Once you start getting out of the main five, which is radish, peas, broccoli, and let me not forget wheatgrass. True. Wheatgrass is a great one, and then any type of bean. Beans are great, or legumes. We'll just say legumes. Legumes are great as well. But to get back to wheatgrass, it used to be very popular. Wheatgrass shots.
Yeah, I drink it every day.
Oh, do you?
Every morning.
Okay. So, if you can find you a juicer, and grow your own wheatgrass, is one of the easiest ones to grow. It's grass. So it's one of the easiest ones to grow. You don't have to worry about seed holes, or anything like that. And it's, of course, one of the most nutritious ones. You might not put that on your sandwich, right. But you definitely can juice that wheatgrass if you have the right juicer. And I'm talking about your nutrition level is, going to go through the roof. And you have to think about it like this, putting the extra time, putting a little extra, maybe even money and investment. We don't say money, we'll say investment. Putting a little time and investment and planning into your health. Time, planning, investment will, in the long run, growing plants, growing food, all of those things are more of a looking for the benefit in the long run.
Yeah.
And it's taking patience and nourishing, and it's something that we need as people, to kind of slow us down sometimes. Lose yourself into your project, and lose yourself into the plants, and to the point to where you forget about some of the outside stresses that's going on, and you begin to appreciate the calming effect. You begin to appreciate the challenges of growing plants, and sparking that interest for you to go look on Google and become a Google scholar in
YouTube University.
Yeah, YouTube University. That's what life is about to me.
Do the research.
Learning.
Listen, one of my dreams is to travel the world, which it will come soon in the next couple of years. I'm giving myself to do it. To travel the world and to research plants and seeds, and learn more about the different ways they can be used in a variety of cultures for uses that are beneficial to the body. Yes. So I love plants. I really do. I love meeting other growers and farmers. And so I am so grateful today that you came to come share, Black Soil Urban Farm with us, because we need to hear from more farmers.
Yes.
And we put so much value on those that touch our food and our land. And so I appreciate you for sharing with us. I'm Crystal. I am your plant pusher. And I am so honored and grateful to have Mr. Renaldo Lemons with us today. So I want to thank all you for listening. Thank you for having us. And we hope you grow something spectacular. Stay tuned. This show, Plant Pusher Podcast, is brought to you by Possibilities Podcast Platform. We appreciate you listening. Stay tuned. Your favorite episode is up next.